Now, not so good. And so they've noticed that they're naked. They start to see good and evil. Before, they had no awareness of that. The relationship could happen perfectly because they were not aware of each other's flaws. They didn't have them. So it's sin that has brought in to us the awareness of each other's flaws. That time where you're like, honey, I got no white shirts. Like, come on, haven't you done the laundry today? And she's like, you do the laundry. That's a common conversation in our house. Or her saying, could you please not leave your underwear on the bathroom floor beside the hamper? I'm a guy. Like, that's exactly what we're supposed to do. See, do they not understand this? Like, what about that time that you're out with your buddy? You're out with your buddy and you guys both see this pretty girl. And now the whole buddy thing kind of changes because you're both kind of interested in this pretty girl. And we have the code, right? The man code where you never break that code, where you never go, the girl never comes between two buddies, right? Yeah, right. Whatever. Honestly, come on, guys. We're sitting there going, man, she is hot. This is good. I don't care about Mike. Like, he'll never know. I've lived that. I've experienced that in high school, actually. I dated my best friend's girlfriend, and it was bad. Our relationships with each other are an absolute disaster. Our relationships with our spouses, with our boyfriends, with our girlfriends, with our parents, with everybody else that we completely interact with at any time. At some point, there is strife. At some point, there's anger. At some point, there's frustration, even with the dude that pumps gas into your car. Maybe he's not doing it fast enough and you deserve speed. You see, sin brought self-centeredness into the picture, which self-centeredness is what brings us into strife, where we start to notice each other's flaws and we start to think that we actually don't possess those flaws ourselves. We enter in where God in the story now has to progress through, and he is to the point where he literally says in the Bible, I am sad that I made man. So let's wipe him out. But he finds one man, a guy named Noah, right? There's been movies about him and so on and so forth. And he finds the one man and he keeps his family and he wipes the rest of the world out because the relationships have gone so sour that everybody's killing everybody. Things are absolutely crazy. I mean, sexual sin is just insane. And so God wipes out the world except for one family and rebuilds everything with that one family. And at the end of that, develops what he calls a covenant. A covenant with Noah, and it's called a rainbow, right? That he will never again wipe the world out by flood. That's the first covenant that happens in the Bible. And we then start a covenant-type relationship with God. So at the very beginning, we are in his presence. We're hanging out with him in the garden. We're totally like drinking beers with him and stuff. It's all good, right? Everything's fine. We're buddies. We go out for wings. It's all awesome. And then we make the choice to totally screw that up. Relationships totally change. The world gets wiped out as we know it, except one family. And we now have to enter into a covenant so that we can now be in a organized relationship with God. And he gives the law through Moses, and we have to follow step by step the laws of Moses and how that happens. And what that is just a temporary solution to commune with God, but not in his presence. That's how everything functioned. In the book of Judges, at the very end of the book of Judges, it says, I'm paraphrasing this a little bit, but it says they did anything that they felt fit. There was no rules. There was no nothing. People just lived here and did anything and everything they wanted. The immorality, the sexual sin, the adultery, the murder, and all of the biggies were like rampant across the world. But in the garden, in the presence of God, everything was perfect. So what I want you to understand in that whole long discourse there is that without the presence of God, it's not possible to have a functioning relationship, a healthy relationship. Now, the New Testament changes everything, and that's why we call it the New Covenant. It's our new covenant with God, where the curtain is ripped, where we can now enter into God's presence again. So now you see the importance of Jesus, where we now focus on a relationship with Jesus, because Jesus is the way to the Father. This is a foundational thing in Christianity, that we see Jesus bringing in the new covenant, the new way, and that way actually allows us to be in God's presence if we choose. Keeping in mind, I want everybody in this room to write this down. Love is a choice. And God gave us that choice in Genesis 2 and 3. And we chose the hard path. But along comes Jesus, and Jesus dies on the cross. Jesus gives us all the relational examples of how it is that we're supposed to interact with each other, how it is that we're supposed to love on each other. And what did Jesus do? He ate with the tax collectors and the sinners, the low of the low. He lived in humility, and he loved people. That's how the Bible, in a broad picture, says that we are supposed to live in community with each other, in relationships with each other, that the whole thing is bathed in love, and love is a choice. So all of the strife, all of the anger, all of the stuff that surrounds our relationships is us choosing not to love. Even though the person we're fighting with, we say we love. Relationships are a mess. They have been since the fall. And Jesus gives us the choice to change that. The question is are you the dude standing beside the woman just saying, okay, I'll eat the apple, and then blaming it on her when you have to be accountable for it? Or are you the woman standing there being completely duped by a snake? Being naive because you want more? The whole premise of relationships, the whole way that relationships function biblically in New Testament, in the New Covenant, is basically separated by living in the Spirit and living in the flesh. I want you to open your Bibles to Romans chapter 8. The choice that we're given is to love or not to love. That is the question. And the choice that we're given is flesh or spirit. Those are the two choices that we're given in our relational aspects today. And in Romans 8, at verse 5, it says, "For those who live according to the flesh set their minds on the things of the flesh, but those who live according to the Spirit set their minds on the things of the Spirit." You can only experience true love through the Spirit. So the choice that we have in our relationships today is, do you live your life in the Spirit, or do you live your life in the flesh? And the thing is that Jesus, he sort of covered all of this, because the reality is that we live our lives, even though we're Christians, mostly in the flesh. Even the best of us. We claim to be spiritual. We are all spiritual beings in one way or another, because it's spirituality and sexuality and all of that is all interlinked together, all tied together, all pointing towards God, all linked to Jesus, and all linked to our relationship with Jesus. But yet we still have this choice. Do we eat the tree, the apple on the tree? Eating the tree would be cool. Or do we not eat the tree? Do we live our life in the flesh or do we live our life in the Spirit? That is now the new covenant choice in relationships. And if you live your life in the Spirit, your relationships will be bathed in love. If you live your life in the flesh, your relationships will be bathed in self-worth, in selfishness.